folks, and welcome to Subjective Thoughts. And our comic for today is Terror Inc. Apocalypse Soon, Issue 3 by Max. Now, there is violence, killing, shooting, a plague, magic stuff, limb tearing, and more violence in this one, so if you are in any way squeamish, you have been warned. Also, spoilers. Alright, here's the team. Okay, so when we left off Mr. Terror in issue 2, he and Mrs. Primo went to the Israeli agent that gave him this job, or gave it to Mr. Terror, to ask him, where the kid Abin is. They needed to find him, but the agent, whose name was Mayer, I think, killed himself. Wah wah. But it's okay. Mr. Terror's got a way to handle that as always. And so we begin this issue with him and Mrs. Primo in Afghanistan. He took Agent Mayer's legs. That must have been an interesting one for the Mossad to investigate afterwards. He took his legs and they're leading him to where they found Abin. Or was that it? Was he the one that found Abin back then? But anyway, it's leading them. They're going where the legs are leading. But it looks like our Agent Mayer isn't so in shape. Or at least his legs weren't. So they're going. They stop to have camp. There's a funny moment where Mrs. Primo tells Mr. Terror that he smells. He wants to make love to her all the time, but yet he can't bathe himself. And how did he manage? And he says, well, before the roll-on. I mean, I don't think all the perfume in the world's gonna do much for decaying body parts. Who knows, man? Maybe Mr. Terror can have someone work on something for him. And they continue walking until they finally reach the place, but it looks like someone already got there before them. There's the Taliban there and other ones. And they investigate, they find a pit. And also, before they find a rock where it looks like someone was chained to it. And Mrs. Primo asks, do you think this is where they tied up the virgins for the Dragon Lord? But it's unclear, perhaps. Then they go down this pit, and down a cave into a pit, and there's a lot of bodies down there. And they all seem to have holes in their foreheads. Mr. Terror tells Mrs. Primo to climb back up because they might have the plague, the Black Death, and they go back up and they sit there. But it doesn't look like this is the Dragon Lord's doing because their brains aren't eaten. They're just, it looks like they've been mercy killed. Unclear by who. And Mr. Terror is starting to suspect that perhaps the Dragon Lord isn't behind this. Like he thought in the second issue. As they're talking, they get shot at. Mr. Terror gets shot in the head. Mrs. Primo manages to duck behind a fallen wall. And then a little further away from them, there's the main guy. His name is Mabdullah. He's standing there looking, and his Hafifa, his man, is telling him, "Okay, we got the big one down, Mr. Terror, and there's just the woman, but we have her surrounded. Should we keep her? Do we want her alive?" And Mr. Terror answers, "We want her very much alive." And he grabs Abdullah and he says, "All right, now he said, we're gonna play a game. You're gonna put your hands up for me." Or was it sing a song? Anyway, it looks like they talk, and the next scene, Mr. Terror is standing with Mabdullah, Afifa, Mrs. Primo, and the rest of his men. And Mr. Terror explains that Abdullah is a man who believes in God, which means he likes to kill Americans, or doesn't like Americans, but he hates the devil even more. And as it turns out, Aben isn't an innocent child after all. He is Abdullah calls him a demon, but he seems to also not be able to die. They found this kid somewhere there, and they've since been trying to kill him. They shot him, they burned him. What didn't they do to him? And nothing seemed to work, and he would taunt them by drawing pictures with his blood, but then he would regenerate the next day. It's sort of like Mr. Terror, but of course not exactly. So I was like, what the fuck's going on? So apparently Abdullah sent him to where was he? Istanbul. Send him to Istanbul to that doctor to find a way to kill him. So it's like that doctor, in the meantime, was working on a plague as well. Unclear. And Mr. Terra's like, oh yeah, bad luck, because he's the one that ruined it. Well, they didn't know, to be fair. So yes, then his Abdullah's brother took he and his men are the ones that came to Istanbul and kidnapped Aben again. And they since took him somewhere to get rid of him. They want to chain him back in a cave and use some dynamite. Though I don't think that would work. Considering burning him alive didn't do fuck all. Well, now everyone is sick because of the plague. Abdullah's wife and his sons are also very sick, and he hasn't heard from his brother since the last time. So they have a truce for now, Mr. Terror and Abdullah, to get to Aben. Mr. Terror realizes that they're going to need the Dragon Lord. They need a cure before they can do anything. So he's telling Abdullah they need to go. He shows them where he chained him, and so they begin the journey. Because Abdullah has a bit of sense of humor, since they talk about how afterwards they're gonna go back. Mr. Terra is gonna go back to America and eat McDonald's and get fat, and Abdullah's gonna go back to killing Americans. And he tells Mr. Terra that he prefers Wendy's. Okay. Well, they journey, they reach a border somewhere. Apparently Abdullah had business with the soldiers there, the American ones, but, things have changed since the start of the plague. There's two jeeps, one with him, Mrs. Primo, Mr. Terror, and Hafifa, and another jeep with his men. That one gets shot, and they turn over. And he says, I think he's telling Mr. Terror his men are sick, and good luck to those soldiers. They're about to catch up with them. Anyway, they keep going until finally they reach the cave where Mr. Terror has chained up the Dragon Lord all those centuries ago. And inside they find some sort of gas. I don't know, the kind of gas that... what did Mr. Terror call this gas? It's not... Oh, they're in Iran now, by the way. That's where they go to... That's where he chained him. Let me just see. Yeah, they get in because there's a whole bunch of barrels in there, and it's... the VX nerve gas. That's what it is. So yeah, someone's already been there, it looks like. And things get a bit tense for a moment, because Abdullah wants that gas. But then Mr. Terror reminds him, Abdullah, in there are answers that you really need. Remember your wife and sons. So things Abdullah has more men with him, so I guess there was maybe a third jeep. Anyway, they go in and they meet the Dragon Lord. He's still chained up where he used to be, and he tells him, hey, you, this time use the, not eucalyptus, the lavender oil, and get to it. It makes me feel tingly. Well, I mean, to be fair to the man, he's been chained there for what, 6, 7 centuries, and his own snakes are eating his brain every morning, and takes the time to regenerate, which is what he tells Mrs. Primo when she tells him he's gone crackers. Oh, he also says to none of them, he just says, "Come on, get on it." And not get on it, get to it, Neil. Not Neil, but basically it insinuates that his caretaker, whoever comes in to take care of him, has to kneel down and give him a blowjob. And he's referring to a man. Anyway, Mr. Terra approaches him and he's like, "Hey, Zeke," I'm just gonna call him Dragon Lord because I have no fucking clue how you're supposed to pronounce his name. Now, the Dragon Lord calls him by a different name because that's the alias Mr. Terror gave him. And he tells him, and he asks him, what's, how you been doing here? I see. So let's say someone's been taking care of him. And he tells him, I need your cure that you made for the plague. And then he says, so the boy has escaped. And Mr. Terror asks, about the boy? It's like, of course, he's my son. Well, I certainly wasn't fucking expecting that. Holy shit. So it turns out that Abin is not, as you can have already told, a regular kid. And he's also about a few centuries old. Holy shit. So, old Dragon Lord had many a women. Looks like one of them bore him a child. And he says that's why I switched teams. Oh, that one was funny to me. They switched teams, but anyway, yeah, he had the kid, and his son was a lot of trouble for him because he had the plague in him, and he would constantly kill his wet nurses. They would breastfeed him, and then they would die afterwards. So he just chucked his kid into a deep hole, worse than where Mr. Terra has chained the Dragon Lord, and just left him there. It looks like his son has escaped after all this time. And now, I don't know. Probably going out to cause some trouble. So Mr. Terra makes him a deal. If he goes with them, helps them make the cure. And after that, and a day after, they're all gonna go their separate ways. But until then, there needs to be a truce. And so he releases the Dragon Lord. The stone that was holding his shackles was magical, so that's why he couldn't escape. And the magic is in Mr. Terror's metal arm. So he removes the shackles fall off, and then Ben, of course... Oh, before he unshackles him, Mrs. Primo tells Hafifa to go back to the Jeep. Oh, and before that, when he says, "Well, you've come again, and I see you bringing forth the virgin," and the Mr. Terra said she's no virgin. And Mrs. Primo's all offended, and the Dragon Lord says, "Yeah, I can see she smells like a solid goat." Well, that's offensive. Anyway, he releases him. Dragon Lord's like, "No, I'm going to rule this world." And Mr. Terra tells him, "This world is not what it used to be, Dragon Lord. It's much bigger than you." And then he says, "Well, I'll let my son bring down its size." And then he sends a snake forward, and the snake pulls off Mr. Terror's head. And that's it. That's where the issue ends. Oh, before that, Mr. Terra tells Ma Abdullah that in case anything happens, Mrs. Primo knows what to do. Oh, that's it. Okay, so cover Fantastic cover. Look at him on that horse. That's so cool. I wish there was some scene like that in the comic itself. But yeah, that's awesome. Oops, jeez. I fell. Second. Okay. Oh, some interior art. What I don't like is that every start they use this picture, like this panel, and in the second series they would change it each time. So yeah, that's a little bit lazy of them here. So there we go. This is Mrs. Primo and Mr. Terror. There they are in the desert, and what did I say? That is the bull of Afghanistan. Well, there they are. They're walking. Scorpion. And then they reach the village, sort of a village, and you see everyone's dead. Everyone's been already killed. And let me just show you Mabdullah, and that'll be it. There's Mabdullah, and that's Hafifa. I'm certain I'm probably mispronouncing that. You see, there it is. And this Primo shooting. Okay. So the story took an unexpected turn. Based on issue 2, I thought we would find out that the Dragon Lord was behind this, but nope. He was not. And I guess Noah was really behind it, just his son escaped from the hole he tossed him into and started going about and, bringing the plague to people. And then he was captured by Mabdullah, and, things have gotten more fucked from there. And things are not looking good. So yeah, I said in the second issue that I hope they don't have to kill the kid, but I think now there's no choice, really. Nabin isn't some poor innocent child, really. Well, not entirely. I mean, it's not his fault he was born to Dragon Lord, but still. So I take it he was born way back then, when Abdullah wasn't chained. When the Dragon Lord wasn't chained. So this kid's a few centuries old, but it seems he's like what? Like what? A 13 teenage? No, not teenager. He's a preteen maybe. So it's so weird that in all that time he hasn't really aged much. Would it take him a few more centuries to reach adulthood? And the Dragon Lord says that, he'll help them find his wayward son, and then to make the cure, he needs to grind him and make a cure out of that. So it looks like to make the cure, they're gonna have to kill Abin. Which, considering the havoc he's wreaking, I very much doubt many people are gonna miss him or be sad that he's gone. But yeah, that took an unexpected turn. I did not see that one coming. Although, actually, no, you just think the kid's a carrier, just an immune one. That begs the question, does that mean that Dragon Lord had the disease in him somehow? How did he have a son that contains the plague within him? Was the mother infected with it? I'm just trying to understand the logic of how this works. So or maybe the kid was born with this because of the father's powers? Because he has these two snakes, and it looks like he's also sort of, no, not sort of, but he's immortal too. And Abin is as well. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how did he get that he has this disease, he's a carrier of the plague. It looks like that's probably how he spread the plague then originally, in that case. He didn't make it, but he made a cure for it. Or again, maybe you can still save Abin. Maybe if you... Although... Well, wait, how did he make the cure then the first time? It's not like he ground Abin into some substance and then used him. So how did he make it then? And if they can remake it, does that mean they can pump the kid with it? And, well, I know what you do with him still, though, since he's an immortal. And I mean, that was his example of a daddy. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. All left to be concluded in the final issue. Yeah, I look forward to see how they conclude this one, really. As I've said already in the last two videos, the pacing here is a bit fast, a little too fast. Could have used more, like there may be extra pages or more panels for this stuff, but it is what it is. But regardless, thus far it's been a very entertaining series at the very least. I am looking forward to finding out how Abed's going to be dealt with, and what about the Dragon Lord. And Mr. Terra did say that he has a plan, and hopefully it works. So I wonder, maybe he wants to take the Dragon Lord's body or something. Because did he trust him, or did he not trust him, and then he decided to to do what? Why did he let him take his head off? Was the question. And why did Mrs. Bremo tell Afifa to go back to the Jeep? Am I sensing old Ma Abdullah's about to lose his body? Maybe. I'll find out in the final issue. Alright, folks, so that is it. Let me know what you thought of issue 3 of Terror Inc. Apocalypse Soon. And remember, collect what you're passionate about and share it on YouTube. Bye!